Welcome to Pastor G's Roundtable podcast. My name is Pastor Simpiwe Gwana Kamachikiza, and I'm welcoming you to a very interesting and exciting episode which you really don't want to miss. We're going to be talking to a very dynamic author, not only an author, but someone who has a life that has been very torturous, a life that has been full of adversities. I'm holding a book, which is one of his a book or his first book, and the book is called From Prison to Pulpit. His name is Thapelo Masokoane from Soweto. Soweto, as you know, is from South Africa in Gauteng, and yes, it is one of the biggest townships in the Southern Africa, if not in the world, and that's where he comes from. He's going to be telling us about more of what had happened from his childhood and going up to teen, and also growing up to becoming a young man and involving himself into all kinds of crimes, which he's going to share with us, and subsequently being imprisoned, and in prison having met the Lord, like Paul in his Damascus journey. And he's then going to be telling us how he got to write a book, From Prison to Pulpit, and share more about his life and what he's doing now and what he intends going forward doing. Welcome, Thapelo Masokoane, to Pastor G's Roundtable. We converse about anything and everything. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for the opportunity that you are granting me. I believe that each and every human being on earth has a story.
Yes.
And the story, it's not about actually what happened. It's when you have reached that other side of the tunnel and you look back in retrospection and you are able to say, look, this is where I've been and this is where I am because of God's amazing grace.
Amen.
In our lives.
Amen.
So yeah, I'm willing to tell where I've been, how I've been, and how Christ himself come into our lives in moments of despair, in moments where we think it's over. I'm not worth it, I will never amount to anything. Then Christ come and say, I am the beginning and I am the end. So if you come to me, I can then take you back to the beginning.
Many people always say people get involved in crime because it starts from the time you're young, and it has an influence in terms of your childhood. What can you share with us in terms of your childhood? What had happened to you that you think may have influenced your life, that you ended up being a teenager and an adult that got involved into crime and eventually in prison?
So first and foremost, I would say this, that I was born to a family of 5. I'm the third to be born, and we were raised by a single parent.
Yes.
5 of us, in actual fact, had different biological fathers. So each and everyone has had his own biological father, and that
you were sharing the mother, like 5 different fathers.
5 different fathers, and that in and of itself, it created animosity amongst us because 4 of us, my father was the only one that was absent from the time from the early formative stage of my upbringing as I was growing up to become a lad and of course an adolescent. During those times I recall vividly that my brothers and my 2 sisters, they used to go back to their fathers, especially during festive season. They will go back, get Christmas clothes, and I'll be remaining home wondering what on earth has happened to my own biological father. And they will come back, and when they come back they had to contribute each so that I can then get clothes. But my clothes were not similar to theirs. They were much cheaper, and you know, as a child you are thinking, because you can compare and see, oh man, something is wrong here. And I had a conversation with my mother about the whereabouts of my biological father. Then my mother, we used to fight. Now she would throw anything at me that was next to her because of, I don't know what is it that my father did to my mother. She must have suffered, I think, abuse, be it emotional emotionally, physically, I don't know, I cannot tell that.
Yes.
But based on the aggressiveness and the anger she will demonstrate towards me as we are conversing and having this dialogue about the whereabouts of my father, then anger kicks in. Because now you are raised in abject extreme poverty.
Yes.
We were living in a shack. In fact, before we even lived in a shack, 1997, I recall we were homeless. What I'm saying, it's in a book. We were homeless. We used to sleep in a house, unfinished RDPs in Mtambek at Tembisa. During those days, they were building RDPs. It's after, of course, 1994 democratic election. Then blacks and whites are coming together. Then they were starting to build for black people the RDP houses. We were living there, sleeping there. In the morning, my mother sometimes would go to a tap, just wash her face. The shirt was dirty. I was doing grade 1 in 1997. I will go to school. At school, I was not coping well. I was not, adjusting well with other kids because I'm angry. Sometimes I'm sleeping in the class because yesterday during the night it was cold. Yeah. Maybe I was awake. It was just a traumatic experience for a child like ours. And as I'm growing up, I remember one of the problems that I had was anger. Because I was angry at life. I was angry at anyone.
Angry at your absent father.
Our father.
So I know that researches have been done and results came out and conclusions were made that indeed there is a lot of people that are imprisoned currently, and some are actually involved in crime. And those, if you look at the statistics, most of those are caused by fatherlessness. And in most cases, there's a lot of rejection that starts from when you're still in the womb, in your mother's womb. You feel it, and your subconscious registers that I was rejected. My father is never here. Other siblings' fathers are around. There's provision for them, and there's no provision for me. So you grow so much anger. You're angry sometimes with God. You're angry with yourself. You're angry with your mom. You're angry with your dad you never saw. You're angry with everybody. As we just mentioned now, you're angry with life. You're just saying, why am I here?
What am I doing here? Because even God himself, there were times we went to church, and you look at other people's life are different from yours.
Yeah.
Because you only have moments of joy in glimpses. A few minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes here and there. Then after church, you are back to reality. And for me, even God himself, I had some questions for him to say, no, if you are God. In fact, I think within Christendom, it is the most profound question that each and every human being is asking. The problem of pain under the government of a supreme God who has the ability to intervene, but choose not to. And most people, they say, even, I think, atheism, it's built on this concept. The concept of the loving God and the world that is filled with injustice, pain, and suffering. And most people, they come, they say, no, it can't be. How can, this is a cruel God. And for me, I was on their fold at that time to say, no, God can't be. Look, don't tell me about this theory of this manga business.
They were talking more sense to you that time. Before you had an encounter that became personal.
God, he will visit you in your own spaces and in your own adversity moments. And I'm growing up.
So this aggressiveness and anger, you were filled with so much hatred that was building up from your early age. And then you started at your teen. Was it at your teen age when you started going astray and going wayside?
Yeah, I started trying to experiment with smoking. And now remember, I used to play soccer. I was skillful. I was, in fact, my family, they looked at my talent as a soccer player. And they thought, and I also thought that this was something I would take my family out of poverty. So because there was a promise there was everybody, even in townships, they will say, this guy is going somewhere, because I would get calls to some of the bigger things, else I was playing soccer, but I don't know what happened. I'm looking back and I'm trying to find out what went wrong, but I realized that the choices that we are making also,
maybe because you were just saying it now, fatherlessness, anger that was building up. There were no proper mentors to mentor you into the right direction.
Into the right direction.
Now you ended up being influenced by peers when you were supposed to focus on your career, development, and all of that, personal growth, and it never worked.
It never worked.
Eventually, you went astray into
you know, even the environment. I think there's a theory that of nature versus nurture, where the environment contributes much so to your development, to where you're gonna be tomorrow. So my environment was so toxic because everyone around never became anything except for a criminal that was stealing and escalated to doing heist, and maybe he's sitting in a wheelchair, or he's dead, or he's spending a long month.
So what was happening now, it was more of a situation of saying, why must I be different from my environment? My peers are doing these things. Why can't I do it?
Because after
it's
soccer,
my environment, it's my space. This soccer is not even making it for me. Then let me continue to do what others are doing.
Because after game, after what, you need to wear shoes. You need to have proper clothes. You need to have food. You need to belong to have